The film that you are seeing at this moment is an 1897 documentary film directed by Enoch J. Rector, depicting the 1897 boxing match between James J. Corbett and Bob Fitzsimmons in Carson City, Nevada on St. Patrick's Day. Originally running for more than 100 minutes, it was the longest film released to date. As such, it was the world's first feature film. Documentary photography usually refers to a popular form of photography used to chronicle events and environments both significant and relevant to history and historical events as well as everyday life. It is typically undertaken as professional photojournalism or real-life reportage, but it may also be an amateur, artistic, or academic pursuit. Photographs meant to accurately describe otherwise unknown, hidden, forbidden, or difficult to access places or circumstances date to the earliest daguerreotype and calotype surveys of the ruins of the Near East Egypt and the American wilderness areas. 19th century archaeologist John Beasly Greene, for example, traveled to Nubia in early 1850s to photograph the major ruins of the region. One early documentation project was the French mission's heliographies, organized by the Official Commission of Monuments and Histories to develop an archive of France's rapidly disappearing architectural and human heritage. The project included such photographic luminaries as Henri, Secq, Edouard, Denis, Baldus, and Gustave In the United States, photographs tracing the progress of the American Civil War from 1861 to 1865 by photographers for at least 3 consortia of photographic publisher and distributors, most notably Matthew Brady and Alexander Gardner, resulted in a major archive of photographs ranging from dry records of battle sites to harrowing images of the dead by Timothy O'Sullivan and evocative images by George N. Bernard. A huge body of photography of the vast regions of the Great West was produced by official government photographers for the Geological and Geophysical Survey of the Territories. During the period of 1868 and 1878, including most notably the photographers Timothy O'Sullivan and William Henry Jackson. Nanook of the North is a 1922 silent film that combines the elements of documentary and docudrama at a time when the concept of separating films into documentary and drama did not yet exist. In the tradition of what would later be called salvage ethnography, the film follows the struggle of the Inuit man named Nanook and his family in the Canadian Arctic. It is written and directed by Robert J. Flaherty, who also served as cinematographer, editor, and producer. Some have criticized Flaherty for staging several sequences, but the film has been described by Roger Ebert as standing alone amongst Flaherty's films in the stark regard for the courage and ingenuity of its heroes. It was the first feature-length documentary to achieve commercial success, proving the financial viability of the genre and inspiring many films to come. In 1989, Nanook of the North was among the first group of 25 films selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the United States National Film Registry for being culturally, historically, aesthetically significant. Plow That Broke the Plains is a 1936 short documentary film that shows the cultivation of the Great Plains region of the United States and Canada following the Civil War and leading up to the Dust Bowl as a result of farmers' exploitation of the Great Plains natural resources. The Plow That Broke the Plains was the first film created by the U.S. government for commercial release and distribution through the Resettlement Administration as part of President Roosevelt's New Deal program. The Resettlement Administration recruited Pierre Lawrence to produce The Plow That Broke the Plains to support its campaign of showing the public that the search for profits in the West resulted in the displacement of settlers, misuse of the land, and ultimately resulted in the dust storms that affected the Great Plains region in the 1930s. The film was one of the most widely publicized attempts by the U.S. federal government to communicate to its citizens through motion pictures. The Plow That Broke the Plains was written and directed by Pierre Lawrence independently, while the music score was written by composer Virgil Thompson. The film was narrated by American actor and baritone Thomas Hardy Chalmers. In 1999, The Plow That Broke the Plains was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant. Don't Look Back is a 1967 American documentary film directed by D.A. Pennebaker that covers Bob Dylan's 1965 concert tour in England. In 1998, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. In 2014, Sight and Sound poll, film critics voted Don't Look Back the joint 9th best documentary film of all time. The film features Joan Baez, Donovan, Alan Price, Dylan's manager Albert Grossman, and his road manager John Mayall, Ginger Baker. Harlan County, U.S.A. is a 1976 American documentary film covering the Brookside Strike, a 1973 effort of 180 coal miners and their wives against the Duke Power Company owned Eastover Coal Company's Brookside Mine and prep plant in Harlan County, southeast Kentucky. It won the Academy Award for Best Documentary at the 49th Academy Awards. It was directed and produced by filmmaker Barbara Coppell, then early in her filmmaking career. A former Vista volunteer, she had worked on other documentaries, especially as an advocate for worker rights. Koppel initially intended to make a film about Kenzie, Miners for Democracy, and the attempt to unseat Tony Boyle as president of the UMWA. When miners at the Brookside Mine in Harlan County, Kentucky went on strike against Duke Power Company in June 1973, Koppel went there to film the strike, which the UMWA had helped to organize. She decided it was the more compelling subject, so switched the focus of her film. In all, she worked on the film for 4 years, including preparation and editing. When Koppel and her cameraman, Hart Perry, showed up on the picket line, the locals were suspicious of their intentions. Rumors flew that a hippie crew from New York was sniffing around the strike. When she confronted a striker who told people not to talk to her, she was told, "Girl, you gotta tell people here what you doing." Koppel and her crew spent years with the families depicted in this film, documenting their dire straits they encountered while striking for safer working conditions, fair labor practices, and decent wages. She followed them to picket in front of the stock exchange in New York City, filming interviews with people affected by the black lung disease and miners being shot at while striking. The Thin Blue Line is a 1988 American documentary film by Errol Morris about the trial and conviction of Randall Dale Adams for the 1976 shooting of Dallas police officer Robert W. Wood. Morris became interested in the case while doing research for a film about Dr. James Gridson, a psychiatrist known in Texas as Dr. Death, for testifying with 100% certainty of a defendant's recidivism in many trials, including that of Randall Adams. The film centers around the inconsistencies, incongruities, and loose ends of the case, and Morris, through his investigation, not only comes up to a different conclusion, but actually obtains an admission of Adams' innocence from the original suspect of the case, David Harris. The Thin Blue Line in the title refers to what Mr. Morris feels is an ironic, mythical image of the protective policeman on the other side of anarchy. The film won many awards, but it was controversial film among documentary film critics who felt the use of reenactment had no place in the documentary format. For this reason, the film was not nominated for an Academy Award, though it won several other awards for Best Documentary. Roger Ebert attributed its rejection to the inability of the Academy voters to appreciate innovative filmmaking. In 2001, the film was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the United States National Film Registry as being culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant.